guys, it's Shayla again from Freckle Finance, and today I wanted to do a video on my 3-month postpartum update and kind of updates on my son. If you're new to this channel, make sure you click that subscribe button below. I upload videos on personal finance, financial independence, and lifestyle videos related to being a new mom and also having a house. So my son will not be 3 months old until the 16th, and it is currently the 12th of December. However, I don't think that much is going to change in the next few days. So I'm just going to start with what's going on with me, and then I will also talk about what's going on with my son. I will say some of this stuff is probably going to get a little bit TMI. Tends to happen in updates and things about having recently given birth and stuff like that. So there's your warning. I don't have too much really to cover for me. I am pretty much fully recovered. I can wear most of my pre-pregnancy clothes except for the fact that I am still exclusively breastfeeding, and I didn't previously have a lot of breastfeeding friendly clothes, but I don't fit into all of my pre-pregnancy clothes, and I still have 6 pounds to lose. I'm not really freaking out about 6 pounds because I'm only 3 months postpartum. I gained 26 pounds, which means I've lost 20 already. A lot of that was, very quickly, which is just, because I had a baby, losing the water weight and the extra blood volume and everything. Surprisingly enough, even though I always heard that you bleed for up to 6 weeks postpartum, I actually bled probably for closer to 8 weeks. And then I went about 2 weeks with nothing, and I got my first period. And I have to say I was so shocked, because I was always under the impression that if you exclusively breastfed, there was such a high chance that you would not get your period, at least until your kid is eating solids. So that took me for a real surprise. And there can be some sort of issues that go along with that. So basically, and this kind of involves my son too, I didn't really know what was going on. He was a lot more fussy, and he kept seeming to be hungry, but I couldn't figure out why, because as far as I was concerned, he was eating all the time, and I thought maybe he's going through a growth spurt. It's kind of what I assumed. I didn't ever reject him. He, I nurse on demand, so when he wants to eat, he gets fed. But then I realized I wasn't getting really full, so my breasts weren't filling up with milk very well, and it turns out that getting your period a few days beforehand to a few days after can affect your milk supply. It can lower it. So while it didn't lower it enough that we had major problems, it kind of explained why he was cluster feeding. He was doing it to get the milk back up. As well, I've also heard that it can change the flavor, and he is not someone who screams at my boob or cries at my boob normally or anything, but there's a few times where he just seemed really angry, and he would continue to eat, so we don't have issues with him eating. But it still caused me a little bit of stress, and I, what's going on? So kind of getting my period helped solve the issue and realize that that's what's going on. And that doesn't happen to everyone, so don't assume that if you do get your period while you're breastfeeding that is something that's going to happen. It just seems to be something that happens to me, but it doesn't, my milk supply doesn't reduce so much that he doesn't get fed. He did sleep a little worse during the night, but nothing too major, and honestly that ebbs and flows anyways. So otherwise, I have been pretty much back to normal in a mental sense. So I'm still able to do some of my hobbies. I am not working out again, and that just more has to do with having time and the fatigue. I'm not super tired anymore, but I just don't feel like I'm quite up to the level of rested where I should actually be full on working out. But I do go for a walk every day, so I am still keeping active, and I still have hobbies that I do. I just don't have very much time for them. If you follow my Instagram, you'll see that I still cook. I'm always reading still too. I do also want to say this just because I've always heard about women really hating their bodies postpartum. And while I can't say that I love my body, possibly because I had previously been 60 pounds heavier and only put on 26 pounds during this pregnancy, even though obviously it was much more concentrated in my stomach, and so my stomach was the biggest it had ever been. My my stomach's not really different. I didn't get any new stretch marks that I didn't have from being bigger, which blew my mind because I was convinced I was gonna get a ton of stretch marks. And it's maybe a bit more jiggly. So I haven't really had to deal with like, oh my gosh, my body is ruined because, you know, it already is not, you know, it already wasn't like a amazing stomach type of thing. Not that I'm like mad or upset about my stomach. However, and I've heard other women say this, and maybe eventually they've said it goes back to normal for some people and maybe not others, I'm not sure. But everything's like almost back to normal, but at the same time, things are different. Like my hips and thighs are wider than before, and I know that like it widens out during pregnancy because you need to, you know, get the canal ready to give space for the baby. But that's different, and frankly a little annoying for me because I already think that I had big enough thighs and wide enough hips in the first place. But that's what it is, and I'm totally fine with the way that is. This took way too long to figure out what was going on, but I am starting to lose my hair. And for some reason I was convinced that I wouldn't lose my hair, even though I didn't really lose much hair at all while pregnant, which is a pretty good sign that you're probably gonna start losing tons of hair. So my hair is like all over the place. I keep giving him the pacifier and like my hair is in the pacifier. I find my hair in his mouth. It's all over my house. I don't seem to yet have any bald spots or anything like that, but I'm definitely losing a lot of hair. I just found one in my mouth. That one's still attached to my head apparently. So on to my son. So he, you know, is almost 3 months old. And I'm not really sure what the average is for certain developmental things, but I know that he's not really behind. He did take a little longer to smile, I guess, than the average baby. And I only know that because I went to his pediatrician appointment at 2 months and he was not smiling. However, he was 2 weeks early. So, I mean, I think sometimes pediatricians forget that like when a baby is so young and they're 2 weeks early, they're probably going to be maybe slightly behind in some development because they can't just like speed up their development just because they come out earlier. But just last week he started rolling from his front to his back, and then he also is attempting to roll from his back to his front. I caught him in his crib. It's like he doesn't seem to want to practice this stuff in front of me. I don't know why, but I caught him in his crib rolling and he almost was on his side from his back, which I'm pretty sure that's pretty early for him to be rolling. He's also grasping at toys and kind of playing with them, and he's quite the babbler. There was one day I was trying to get him to nap, and I was transitioning him. He doesn't nap that often in the ergo. He is currently napping in there. He's having a bit of a bad day, but normally he is no longer napping in here except once a day. So when I was transitioning him into sleeping in the bassinet on his own, there was one time, and I would stay in the room so that I could, you know, give him the soother to calm him down. Sorry, pacifier. I call it a soother as well. Sorry for anyone who doesn't know that term, because I know that people in my everyday life keep asking me what a soother is. And he was talking for 20 minutes. He was for 20. It was the cutest thing. And I was like trying to like stand my ground and be like, no, he's not crying. I will let him, you know, sort this out and fall asleep. But it was so cute. I had to take a video so I could show my family. And as I sort of just mentioned, I have transitioned him from napping on me during the day in the ergo to napping in his bassinet. And actually, pretty much as soon as I did that, he outgrew the bassinet and I had to transfer him to the pack and place. That was quite the 2 weeks. This is not sleep training. I feel that 3 months old is too young to sleep train. I know some pediatricians and some people say that it's okay at 3 months. I don't think he's ready. I don't feel it's necessary. I feel that my sleep level is decent enough that I don't need to be forcing this on him unnecessarily. I'm not going to judge anyone who attempts sleep training at 3 months old. I also don't work, so it's not like I have to go to work and he needs to sleep during X, Y, and Z hours. You know, we have some flexibility, and I can, on occasion, take a nap with him during the day. Although he's still not the greatest napper on his own, he does nap for about a half hour at a time, and there's about 4 to 5 naps a day. And one of the cutest things is he started chewing his fist. I've heard that's a sign of teething, but I think he is a little young to be teething, so he might have just discovered his fist. Not quite sure. But it was actually really funny because my husband last night was like, "Did you hear that noise?" And I'm like, "What noise?" The noise our son is making. And I was like, "No, I don't hear that." I was like, "No, oh, you mean like he's gnawing on his hand?" I was like, yeah, he's been doing that for a bit. He sometimes actually rejects the pacifier for his hand. And he hasn't had an appointment recently. However, I've kind of been weighing him on the scale, you know, by weighing myself with him and then taking him off and just weighing myself. So this is his weight with clothes and a cloth diaper on. But the last time I weighed him, he showed that he was 15 pounds. So I think he's still in the 75th percentile, which is what he was at his 2-month appointment as well. He jumped, when he was first born, he was in like the 35th percentile. He's jumped up to 76. So he's doing pretty good. And for me, I'm like, no, whoa, slow down. But it seems like he's probably leveled out and he's gaining weight normally. He's currently in 3 to 6 month clothing. I actually bought 3 to 6 month clothes to give to him at Christmas. Of course, I mean, he doesn't really know, but anyways, he grew out of his 3-month clothes. I was like a little in denial, just like I was when he grew out of his newborn clothes, because he just keeps growing so quickly. But the one night I put on his one and he like kicked his leg straight, and he couldn't get his leg straight in the sleeper. So that's a pretty good indication that he does not fit into it anymore. And just to go back to me again, I am very fortunate that I did not experience the baby blues or postpartum depression, but I did look up guidelines to try to prevent that, and I would recommend anyone who's pregnant doing it. I'm not saying that's the reason that I haven't, but I did implement some of the advice, and some of the advice you may or may not be able to implement, such as having your husband home for a bit. So my husband was home for 2 months. Those 2 months were a lot rougher, you know, because the baby starts sleeping a little better throughout time at night. And my son wakes up anywhere between 1 and 4 times a night. And I know that that sounds like 4 times a night can be really crazy. Those are his bad nights where he's just going through something. He usually wakes up the next day and he's learned something new. So as far as I'm concerned, like, it's all paid off. You know, if he doesn't want to sleep the night and he learns something new, you know, one proud mom over here when he learns something. So, and sometimes we are very fortunate he only wakes once, and that like never happens either. I would say the average is about 2 times a night. But previous to that, it was very common for him to be waking 4 times a night, every night. So, you know, that has gotten better. And I think if I was very sleep deprived and did not have any help at all during the day, except for when my husband was home from work, I think that would make things more easily that you could slip into depression and stuff like that, because it's difficult being tired. I know that, and that concludes our 3-month update. So give this video a thumbs up for updates. And remember, no matter what your financial situation is, have a great day. Bye.